my friends are synths.
A few weeks back, I received an email that I almost immediately thought was something of a piss take, aimed at my infamously lubricated liver. However, that was not the case. In fact, this was a legitimate message from a niche but well-respected Chinese manufacturer of in-ear monitors who go by the name of Tipsy Audio. Tipsy have been producing IEMs since 2016 and have got a range of different models in their lineup, from the very affordable to the very high end. In their email, they offered to send me over a pair of their newest consumer level IEMs, the M3 Pros, which at the time of recording go for something about $219 US or 165 Great British pounds as the recommended retail price. This was perfect timing, as I'm not just an avid collector of headphones, but I'm also in the middle of mastering my new album, and so I'm looking to listen to it in as many different sets of speakers and monitors and whatever else as I can get my hands on. How fortuitous is that? If you happen to like tripped out electronica or are just interested in supporting me or the channel, you can pre-order a copy of the album over on shop.allmyfriendsaresynths.com. It'll be available on CD and limited edition vinyl, which should be very nice indeed. And if you do so before the end of October, you'll also get an extra special early bird discount. If you're only interested in digital music, then that'll come to, but much later on. Anyway, personal sales pitch aside, let's talk about these IEMs. In the M3 box, you get everything that you would expect from such an offering. This includes the IEMs, which are majestically revealed as you slide back the first panel, a portable travel case, a selection of ear tips, the cable, and a surprisingly nice 3.5mm to 1/4" jack adapter. Right off the bat, I've got to say that the included travel case is probably one of the best that I've come across in my time reviewing in-ear monitors, as it manages to strike just the right balance between utility and quality. I say that because I've had pairs of IEMs in the past that have come with these really nice premium metal cases, but which in practice have been just a wee bit too bulky or heavy to carry about. I've also had the other problem where the cases are either non-existent, as in you don't get one, or they're just really flimsy things which offer almost no protection at all. This particular case is metal with a kind of rubber middle connector cider bit. It's a bit difficult to explain, but it's plenty robust and also, importantly, lightweight, and that is very welcome as far as I'm concerned, because I can just chuck this in my bag irrespective of where I'm going, or if I'm, flying somewhere and I've got luggage, weight limitations and all that kind of stuff. The 4-strand braided cable in here is similarly impressive. It manages to be just thin enough to be unobtrusive, whilst also having enough structure to ensure that it actually stays in place behind your ears. In other words, it isn't too stiff, but it isn't too dainty either. Now that seems like such a simple thing, right? But it's also critical for gear like this. And IEM cables often drive me kind of mad, to be honest, because they don't quite get that balance right, and every time you move about, it comes off your ears. The only one critique I have of this cable is that if you're using these IEMs for on-stage monitoring as opposed to casual listening, then it might be a tad on the short side, depending on how tall you are and where you put the receiver pack. But you can of course switch it out with any other cables that have got the QDC style recessed 2-pin connectors. I've actually come to prefer this style of connector as well, because whilst it might not be as pretty, it feels a bit more secure than the standard version, but I don't want to ignite a flame war, as I know that's a touchy subject. In the box, you also get 4 sets of ear tips. 3 pairs of these are made of silicone in different sizes, small, medium and large, and the 4th is a universal kind of memory foam. I personally found that the foam provided the best fit and sound. However, this is another very subjective area, and one which will depend on your own individual preferences. As with any IEMs, it can take a bit of trial and error to find out what size and kind of tips you like. And whilst the stock options are perfectly fine to get you started, I would also recommend spending a bit of time exploring the different types that are out there. It does make a huge difference to the experience you get with IEMs, and that might not be immediately obvious. The M3 Pros themselves are attractive wee things, available in 3 different colours as standard: transparent red, transparent green, or black and white. I personally opted for the transparent green ones, which I think look pretty great, and which also match my aging 5th gen iPod quite nicely. Whilst these don't feel cheap, They are also incredibly lightweight IEMs, which is a positive thing because it means that when they're in, you can move about freely without feeling tied down or restricted. However, I have to say that unfortunately, after an hour or so of use, I found that my ears would get quite sore wearing these. Now, at first I thought it might be because of the tip choice or the position of the nozzle, but I realised that it was actually because the back of the capsule kind of presses against the cartilage of my anti-helical fold. And I didn't know it was called that. I had to go and look it up, but that is what it is. Now, apparently problems like this are quite common with IEMs and not specific to the M3s. The shape of everybody's ears are different after all, and so different capsules will sit differently with different people. Having done some research, it seems like experimenting with looser cables, which have got less tilt, or longer ear tips to position the capsules further away from your ears, you know, that can help. But if you're like me and have perhaps a tighter or more pronounced outer ear arrangement, then you might want to consider a set of IEMs with a smaller footprint or ones with the bean-shaped design, just in case. Now, it isn't really a massive deal, but I know that some people are especially sensitive about this. I am as well, so that's my fair warning. Now, I purposefully don't read reviews or much about what the manufacturer says before listening to new sets of headphones or IEMs for reviews or features, because I don't want that to colour my perception of how they actually sound. It's a bit like if someone tells you red wine tastes of plums and then you're, oh yeah, tastes of plums. And I give you that caveat with these IEMs in particular, because all of the words that I wrote down in my notes after my initial listening sessions with the M3s actually quite closely mirror those that are used in Tipsy Audio's marketing copy. And that is a pure coincidence. Specifically, my first impression was that these are very airy, in that they feel both wide and natural. They're tonally well balanced with enough low end and mids to satisfy my preference for the bottom, so to speak, but also not overly warm. They are fairly detailed IEMs in the sense that I was noticing parts of my own album tracks that I hadn't picked up before, despite listening to the damn thing hundreds of times as part of the mastering process. And by the way, you can order a copy of it now at shop.allmyfriendsaresynths.com. However, the IEMs also aren't overly treble forward, so in other words, I can easily listen to and enjoy these for extended sessions without becoming fatigued, so long as I get the positioning right. As well as being quite difficult to explain without sounding like a crazy person, all of this is apparently achieved through a triple driver design, which combines a single dynamic driver with dual balanced armatures. Though the technical side of things isn't really my strong point, or indeed what I'm especially interested in. The bottom line here is that these are a pretty solid set of sonically well-proportioned IEMs that provide just enough detail and a wide enough soundstage and separation to feel immersive without becoming cold or clinical. I think that this is one set of in-ear monitors that would be especially well suited for live performance, singers in particular. They're lightweight, easy to drive, detailed without being harsh or fatiguing, and they have this nice, natural, bright spaciousness about them that means that you don't feel stuck or isolated in your own head. I can also see how they would be good for gamers for many of the same reasons. They sit right in that sweet spot where they provide pretty good quality results without the equivalent price tag, and for that reason, seem to be pretty great value as well. Given that the company is called Tipsy Audio, it's pretty interesting to see just how thoughtfully these have been put together, though I guess very serious audio creators doesn't quite have the same ring to it as a name. So that's my first experience with Tipsy Audio, and I guess we'll see if I get drunk audio in future. That sounded much better in my head. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.